Yeah, it's one of my all-time favorites. People love and hate the tree, usually both together. I mean, they're really cool species. They're fascinating in their uniqueness. But if you park under them, you're gonna be pretty upset. They are convenient projectiles for youngsters in the wild. Absolutely. Yeah, so the Osage orange, uh, one of its most more common names is the monkey ball or the monkey brains, and you'll know this tree by the large 4 to 5 inch diameter ball of green, knobbly fruit. So it looks like almost like cauliflower, like a green cauliflower, 4 to 5 inches in diameter. So about the size of a softball is the size. When they fall, they can hurt you. They're pretty big, and yeah, they're good projectiles. They'll roll down the street. Streets that have them planted street side will have cars with dented hoods, and they'll smash windshields, but they'll definitely dent your hood and dent the roof of your car, and can be trip hazards too. You step on one of these on a sidewalk, and you're rolling your ankle. They're big. They're much bigger than a walnut. So I've seen them use the street trees. I don't know why. I can't figure that out. But what I think it is that I don't think they were used as street trees. I think when I see them along streets, my thought is that they're used as hedgerows, or they used to be used as hedgerows. And one of the other common name, or not, yeah, one of the common names is hedge apple. And the reason why they're used as hedgerows is because if you continually prune them short, they grow all these shoots, and the shoots will grow 3 to 6 feet per year, and you can coppice them, you can intertwine them. And so before barbed wire, or for a cheap and natural alternative barbed wire, you could put rows of these around your farm or your house or whatever. So when I see them as street trees, my initial thought is always, oh, there used to be a farm. These things delineated the edge of that field, and there was probably a walking path that turned into a gravel road that is now a paved road. A lot of the roads that we drive on now, uh, most of them are planned in urban areas, but when you get into that suburban rural areas, a lot of those just followed footpaths and have now developed into these. So I think the ones that are street side are generally were planted as hedgerows. It's just out there. I'm sure there are native nurseries that sell some of them. If I had a large property and had some space, I would definitely put a few in just because they're really cool trees. They are a little aggressive in their spread, though. They spread pretty quickly, and in certain parts of the United States, they're considered invasives because of their aggressiveness. They're not native to most of the United States. I mean, they are native to the United States, but a very specific pocket. Pre-Columbian era, these things only lived in East Texas, a little bit of southern Oklahoma, and that's about it. And it was a tiny little pocket. But then once Native Americans started using them, I mean, they'd always used them, but they started using them for bows. The wood is wildly dense. It's a super strong, hard wood and really good for bows, for like bows and arrows. And then once the settlers, the colonials, started to understand what this thing was, it took off like wildfire when they wanted to hedge in their properties. I mean, you plant a hedgerow of these things within 5 years, you can't get through it. Cows, pigs, sheep cannot get through these things. That's how thick they grow. So they're really popular. Like I said, up until late 1800s when barbed wire came along, these were it. These were the fences. It will keep kids out of your yard. It's not a bad idea. I remember when I was in, I took landscape design classes at Cincinnati State Community College back in the day, and we would always talk about specific uses for specific plants. And this is one that would come up for areas on college campuses where you don't want, like, you get those cow paths where people leave the sidewalk. and they just destroy the turf while they cut between two buildings instead of taking the slightly longer route around on the sidewalk. That'd be a great place for a Osage orange hedgerows, just to keep those college students from cutting through the quad where you're spending so much time getting the turf ready. I think it's the prolific seeding and the shoot growth and the rapidness of it. And they just outcompete. To be an invasive species, really what that means is that it outcompetes the native vegetation, and therefore is taking up resources that native vegetation will be going after. So yeah, they their range expands faster than the native vegetation in most places. I think it would be okay. Personally, I've never seen these things like take off. They're not like calorie pear. They're not like I'll pick any number of them. Tree of Heaven. I don't see these things like going crazy and just showing up in random places. So I think you'd be okay with that. Keep your first aid kit handy. So go ahead. I was gonna say the Latin name is Maclura pomifera, which is one of my all-time favorites. Maclura, and if it sounds Scottish to you, it's by design. So William Maclure was a Scottish American geologist, Scottish born American geologist who lived in the late 1700s, early 1800s. And so he was the one who got the tree named after him. Um, the Osage from the common name Osage orange comes from the Osage tribe, Native American tribe, and Meriwether Lewis was the first one to really document this tree when Lewis and Clark crossed the United States. And he actually sent back in the early 1800s, about 1804, he sent back clippings of Osage oranges to Thomas Jefferson and said, these are from the Osage people. And they developed this giant ball that looks like an orange. So Osage orange. Um, yeah, so that's it. It's a small to medium sized tree or a large shrub, depending on who you talk to. Again, if we wanted to do an episode on what's the difference between a tree and a shrub, we could probably get about half an episode in. It's a pretty in depth conversation. For me, it's how thick does it grow at the base? That's kind of what becomes a shrub to me. Um, Although that's a very non scientific approach. It gets to be 40 to 65 foot tall. I mean, that's a giant Osage orange, is 65 foot tall. Usually it's in that 25 to 40 foot range. Very round, broad canopies. This isn't a straight, thin tree. These are really broad. And generally, they start branching out right off the ground. Not like ankle level, but almost waist high to chest high. These aren't like oak trees that have these giant crowns that you look up to. These things, you're looking at a crown at eye level. No matter how tall the tree is, it's thick at the base. So they're big. The roots of it are super bright orange, which is also where it may have gotten that orange name from. I've often on landscape sites or tree sites, I've thought that they are underground cable. They look like coax or coaxial cable, or even a like an orange extension cord that someone might bury from their house to their shed without permits. Not saying that I would ever do that, but maybe I have. We all have. But I have hit these things thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die. This is electric. And it's not. It's an Osage root that looks like a bright orange um, extension cord. Yeah, it does. They're kind of neat. They're often overlooked because people are really looking for the giant fruit. But yeah, they're like these green hairy globs. To me, they look a lot like a sweet gum ball that is soft. So instead of having those hard spikes, they're real soft spikes that you can almost play with. Kind of like, have you ever seen cedar apple rust, which is a fungal disease that's shared between cedar trees and apple tree members. The the portion that's on the cedar trees is this orange glob with little strands coming out of it. Looks like something out of a horror story, but these kind of look like that in a pretty way. It's a dioecious plant, so it's either a male or a female tree. So only the females get those flowers. Interestingly, the males will get the fruit though. So, and the females will also. It's just the male fruit won't have seeds inside. It's just a big green glob, whereas the female will have the big green glob with seeds inside. Uh, so, like I said, the fruit is 4 to 5 inches in diameter. Um, if you cut it, it has kind of a milky ooze that comes out, and it gets real sticky too. So they're not really fun to get hit with or to play with. uh, Gotta be the female. A little more dense, a little more vindictive. Nah, I just say that. No, just dense. Yeah, it's a hard fruit. So yeah, I mean it's a very unique tree. The largest one in the United States is in Charlotte County, Virginia. Patrick Henry had a farm there called the Red Hill Plantation. And this particular Osage, they think, is about 325 years old, plus or minus 40 or 50 years. It's 105 inches in diameter. So 4.5 feet off the ground, 105 inches. That's about 9 feet. That's a big tree. So think about a 9 foot long, I don't know, 2x4. Lay that sideways. That's how wide this tree is at 4.5 feet off the ground. That tree's 65 feet tall. It's got a spread of about 95 feet, and it is gorgeous. If you look up pictures of the Osage orange at Red Hill Plantation, it's spectacular. I think it's behind the manor house on this wide open lawn. So it sits by it's not like hidden in a forest. It's in its glory, just spread out there. It's spectacular. They're too big to rake. You can't roll over. I've seen little wheelie pickup things for acorns and walnuts. That will not work for these. They're far too large. Maybe the tennis ball baskets that you use for tennis that have the expandable bottoms where you just plop it down over a tennis ball and it kind of picks it up. I bet that would work for these, but they're so darn heavy, Doug. You get a basket full of these and it's going to be 40 pounds. I mean, it's going to be tough to lift. So you can eat it. You don't eat the flesh. It's pretty disgusting. But the seeds you can roast, and they have a nutty flavor. So yeah, you can use it for that. There's an old wives' tale that the fruit of the Osage orange repels spiders. So people used to line the base of their houses with these to keep spiders away. I have zero evidence of that being true, but it's a good thought. But no, the best use is back to your childhood, just throwing them and rolling them and just having fun with them. They're a lot of fun. Uh, as far as the wood goes, the tree itself, it does have a lot of uses. It's the wood's used for tool handles and fence posts. It's the wood is twice as hard and strong as a white oak. So it is just super hard once it's dried. So hard that if you are using it for fence posts that you're going to staple in the metal fence, you got to use green wood because once it dries, staples won't even go into it. It's that hard. When we do work on Osage oranges, it's not a lot of fun. They've got thorns. So unless it's a thornless variety, these thorns hurt. So going up into these things, not good. Also, the wood is super dense. So if it's dry at all, if you're cutting a dead limb off of one of these things, one that's dried, it it will eat up a chainsaw uh, sharpness real quick. So you're constantly sharpening your saw. It's that dense of wood. It also has the highest heat value of North American wood. So once it is dried, you better split it quick before it hardens up. But once you split it when it's green, let it dry, it's the highest heat value of any North American wood. From time to time, you do. Generally, in our line of work where we're mainly working in suburban urban areas, you come across them in neighborhoods that were built on old farmland. And there'll be that county green space that's in between rows of homes that the developer had to leave. You'll find them in there. You'll also find them, much like Patrick Henry's estate there, Red Hill. You'll find them on historic sites. For instance, you did a podcast a few years ago with Josh Paquette, who's one of the branch managers of our DC landscape office. He maintains the Armed Forces Retirement Home in Northwest DC, where Lincoln had his summer cottage, Abraham Lincoln. Behind that site, behind that building, there's a gigantic Osage orange. Now, the historical legend is that Lincoln wrote the Emancipation Proclamation under the shade of that tree after the Antietam battle, which happened in September of, I think it was 1864 or 5. I was actually in Antietam this weekend. I live, I don't know, 40 minutes from that battleground. It's a beautiful site. It's in Sharpsburg, Maryland. But anyways, after that battle, that's when the tide turned for the Union. He wrote the Emancipation Proclamation under the shade of this Osage. No historical evidence of that, but that's the story anyway. We also take care of a property in Northern Virginia, right down the road from Mount Vernon, called River Hill. River Hill is another. Oh, okay. I got you. Okay. Let me back up to the. Yep. Okay. Um, So yeah, so we take care of trees that are usually in suburban areas. You also see them on historic sites. The Lincoln summer cot. Can I say that or no? Got it. Perfect. Okay. I can say I know of trees on these historical sites, but not the deal with it. Gotcha. You also will see them from time to time on historical sites. For instance, the Lincoln Summer Cottage, which is on the grounds of the Armed Forces Retirement Home in Northeast DC, has a historical Osage orange behind that summer residence. See, this was on a hillside that used to be in the country from Washington, D.C. So Lincoln would go up there in the summer when the city was super hot because DC's in a swamp, and it'd be cool. You'd have the breeze up on the hill there. And it said that he wrote the Emancipation Proclamation under this Osage orange, which is a gigantic tree. It's beautiful. There's no historical evidence to support this. It's just a story that's been passed down, but apparently he did. I know of another Osage on one of Washington's properties. George Washington had one called River Farm, just down the road from Mount Vernon, Alexandria, Virginia. And if you're looking at the main house, to the left of that is a spectacular Osage. I want to say it's at least 80 inches in diameter, 60 feet tall, beautiful spread on it, and it's just a spectacular version. So yeah, they're either where farms used to be or on historical sites, which were probably also farms, but they weren't used as windbreaks. They were planted at that point as a visual specimen. Absolutely. They wanted to keep those cows and chickens and all the rest from cutting through. I know. We're giving you all sorts of ideas for repopulating. Doug, great talking to you.